This video is going to walk you through some of the tricks of the trade for reading a scientific article. Scientific articles are quite dense, but fortunately they have these sections that are clearly delineated that help walk you through what the different parts of the article are that really help you read it. So first of all, your article should start with a title. The title is the general topic of the article that introduces you to what that article is going to be about. Underneath the title, you have an abstract. The abstract is going to be key information about the article that's a nice summary of what the article is about, what they did, and even what they found. Underneath the abstract, you have the introduction. The introduction is going to be introducing you to the background information about the article. It essentially tells you what is the topic that this article is generally talking about. So in this case, this article is about a topic called the planetary boundaries. And that article, and in the introduction, is going to give you background on maybe some of the problems that are in the Earth in terms of environmental damage and why they came up with this concept. Typically, the next section is something called methods, or materials and methods. In this case, because this is in a rather high-ranking scientific journal, the materials and methods actually come at the end of the article. However, sometimes you'll find it directly after the introduction. What the methods do is they tell you exactly what those scientists did to come up with their results. The methods is a very important section of the paper, but maybe not so much so for introductory level students. Why? Because you can pretty much trust that if this article was published, a team of scientists pored over exactly what they did and made sure that it was legitimate or valid in order to be published. I often tell students too that in my intro-level courses, I only use articles from very high-ranking journals, some of the best ones in the field. They're very difficult to publish in, and that means that we can really trust what those methods were. Once you move to more advanced levels of science and you're trying to replicate studies, then those methods become a little bit more important for you. The next section is the results. The results is key because that is what they found. Often the results are really mostly a series of tables and figures that depict what they found and show you the data of what they found. And then as you can see here, there's also some text, and the text can be a little bit weighty and difficult to wade through. I often tell students really focus on understanding figures, use the captions that are beneath the figures to understand them, and then if you're still sort of struggling, go to the text to help, maybe it'll help describe some of the details that are in those figures. The last section is the discussion. The discussion, as you can see there, it's outlined in red. The discussion is where the authors describe the implications of the research. So what do the results mean for the overall field? In this case, you see a figure in the discussion. That sometimes happens because when they're not directly presenting the data, but rather talking about the meaning of the data or how it might be applied, and sometimes they'll use a figure for that. In that case, it would go in the discussion. Often, scientific articles end with a conclusion. A conclusion just nicely sums up everything that they've talked about in this article. In this case, there is no conclusion, and really the abstract would sort of cover some of that material. However, a couple of things that I wanted to show on this last page is you can see that there's a supplementary data section, right? That's what that says there, is supplementary data. And that tells the reader, hey, you can go online and look a little bit more detail to see what we did and to see where we got our data from. And that helps keep some transparency to the science that was done. You're also going to see a list of references. A list of references is really useful for students because that you can see, oh, where are the other related articles that they think are important for me to maybe take a look at. Particularly down the line, if you're doing a research paper or something of that sort, it can be helpful to look at the list of references. So now you see the general layout of a scientific article, and I often tell students, hey, scientists can be a little bit of lazy readers, and we use these sections, often not reading every single word of a paper, but really using the sections to try to get the important information out of the article.